Well, welcome everybody to this afternoon's Armchair Travel for Teens. We're going to be speaking with Michelle this afternoon. Michelle's going to be telling us all about Japan, living in Japan, working in Japan, all of the cool things that there are to see, especially in their neck of the woods. I do want to make note as well that the Lethbridge Public Library here in Lethbridge, Alberta, where I am, and I believe most of our audience is, we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot people of the Canadian Plains. So we want to make sure that we pay respect to the Blackfoot people, past, present, and future, as well as recognize and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The city of Lethbridge is also home of the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. And one of the things with this Read the World program that we're doing all year, which incorporates these armchair travel chats, is, exploring our world, be it far away or nearby, and thinking about our place in the world, which involves how we fit into our communities and how we fit with the other people, places, and cultures in those communities. So something to keep in mind while we're exploring the world this year. Again, we are welcoming Michelle to talk about Japan this afternoon. I'm very excited to have Michelle here with us this afternoon. Michelle used to work at the Lethbridge Public Library. I have known Michelle for many, many years. I don't know how many, but many years. And I'm really excited to hear about Japan from their point of view. So welcome, Michelle. We're happy to have you, and I turn it over to you now.
Of course. So hello, everyone. I'm very excited to share my experiences and the presentation that I've made with you about life in Japan. I've titled Exploring the Inaka and Beyond with me. So the Inaka is a Japanese term which means rural parts. So not necessarily the big cities like Tokyo, but more like places you've never heard of. As I live somewhere that you've probably never heard of. I live in Toyoka, Japan, in northern Hyogo, and I just find that there's so many interesting things and places to go off the beaten trail, and so I wanted to share that with you guys. Bit of an introduction. So my name is Michelle Boivin-Carrière. I've been in Japan since August 2019, so I'm almost at 2 years now. I work on the JET program. I really enjoy hiking, exploring Japan, learning different crafts. It's been a really cool experience, and I can't wait to tell you more about it. So I've kind of broken up my presentation into 4 different sections. First, I'm going to talk about the JET program and what it is to work abroad as an assistant language teacher. Then I'm going to talk about the town that I live in, Toyoka. And 3, I'm going to share some thoughts about Japan and how it's been for me. So there's some good things, but also some bad things. And 4, I'm going to show you some highlights from my favorite trips that I've been able to take. Unfortunately, since I came to Japan in August 2019, I think it was about 4 or 5 months later that the coronavirus started. And so I haven't been able to travel as much as I would like to, but I have been able to get some trips that I've really enjoyed. So, working as an assistant language teacher. So assistant language teacher is normally referred to as an ALT in Japan. I chose to go on the JET program, which is a very famous program where you can teach English while promoting international exchange between Canada and Japan. Now, it is important to mention that there are other ways that you can get to Japan and work as an assistant language teacher in ALT through Interact, Aeon, or even direct hires. So like be hiring directly from the school, but that's very difficult. Or some people sometimes work in eikaiwas, which are like after school programs. I chose the JET program for a variety of reasons. Like the application process for JET is very long. I think it starts in the fall, and then you find out if you have an interview in February, you find out if you've been accepted, I think in May, and then you leave in August. So it's almost a year-long process. But with the JET program, you get a lot of stability because the Board of Education in your area is somewhat responsible for you. So they set you up with a housing, they set you up with a bank account, a lot of things that are difficult to do in a country that maybe you can't speak the language in. Um, Also, JET does pay much better than other options, which is really good. One of the downsides for people with JET is that you don't get to choose where you're going to go. The JET program kind of decides, and it's a bit of a surprise. You have no real say. You can say, like, oh, I would like Tokyo, but the chances of getting Tokyo are very low. And I like that personally because then it gave me the option to try something and completely go into a new experience without knowing where that would take me, which is how I ended up in Northern Hyogo. I did include, I'll share the link to this PowerPoint later because I do have links throughout it. At the bottom of this slide, I have a table of comparisons of different types of jobs to work in Japan as an assistant language teacher or as an English speaker. And you can for sure check that out later on if you'd like. So one thing that's important to note about my experience in Japan and any other ones is we like to say a lot ISID, so ESID, which means that everyone's situation is different. Japan is a huge country, so my situation would be completely different than somebody who lives up north in Hokkaido. Or my situation could even be different than the people in the same town as me, just because we have different coworkers, we have different housing, we have different neighbors. Japan, just like anywhere, you're going to have a different situation. There's no one answer of what life would be like in Japan. So I'm happy to share my experience with you guys. So I teach in Toyoka. It's the name of the town. I work at the moment at 4 elementary schools. Normally, I work at 2 elementary schools and I go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But at the moment with coronavirus, we can't get any new teachers, so we're a bit understaffed. So I actually go to 4 elementary schools and I alternate weeks on Tuesdays and Thursdays. With the younger grades, I am the T1, so I'm the main teacher. So I kind of make the lesson plans, I organize games, and it's more like English playtime from grades 1 to 4. Because you're just trying to expose the children to English and show them how fun it can be. And then for the older grades at elementary school, I end up being the T2, so I'm more of the assistant in that case, where the other teacher's job is to take over the class, and I sometimes provide games and pronunciation corrections. I think I included a really fun picture here. Yeah, these are my grade 3 and grade 4 boys, so Sanyo Nensei. And we just once a month we made like a different craft. And so this is for December. We made reindeers and we practiced like the body parts, like nose, you have to cut, eyes, mouth, and they had a really good time. I also work at one junior high school. Junior high school is a bit more of a different environment compared to elementary school because the Japanese teachers of English can speak English very well. In elementary schools, teachers can't really speak English, which is why I take more of a leading role compared to junior high school, where there's more of a team teaching element between me and the other teacher. I create and facilitate activities and games that reflect like the grammar points that we're learning, so it's much more rigorous. I promote English in other countries, so I have kind of like an English board area in the hallway where I try to change it every month to something to share cultures. So I think in November I made it about Terry Fox, which was really fun. And yeah, in junior high school though, and elementary school, part of my role is to just interact with kids, expose them to somebody that maybe they've never seen before, because there's not many foreigners. I am a foreigner here. There's not many foreigners who live in Japan, especially in the rural areas. So I'm just supposed to be like, hey, there's a lot of things you can learn, and English can open those doors if you ever want to explore Canada. So again, I play with the kids. Here's a photo of me and my teacher on Halloween. This is not our normal outfits. And we did like a trivia game with the kids. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoy teaching in Japan. It's been a pretty cool experience. So next, talk a little bit about where I live. So I live in Toyoka, a city in northern Hyogo. Here's a map to kind of orient you. So Toyoka is in the northern part of Hyogo. Hyogo is right next to Kyoto, if that kind of helps anyone. And Toyoka is a bunch of smaller cities put together in one kind of region. It'd be almost as if Coaldale and Colehurst were just called Lethbridge. It's kind of like that. So the town that I specifically teach in is called Takeno, but Takeno is a part of Toyoka. So Toyoka has many interesting things. I would highly recommend the town that I'm living in if you ever come to visit Japan. The top left picture, that is a picture from Kinosaki. It is an onsen little city, onsen town that has 8 different onsens. And if you pay like $13, you can essentially go like onsen hopping. Onsens are public baths for anyone who's unfamiliar with that term. And so yeah, you could just pay and like go to all of these different public baths. And it's such a relaxing little town. The next picture on the top is from Izushi, which is another place inside of Toyoka. Izushi is famous for its castle ruins on the top of a mountain, which is a gorgeous hike to get up to. And Izushi is also famous for soba, which is buckwheat noodles that are very delicious. The middle photo to the left is actually a picture of Takeno, the town that I teach at primarily. Takeno is very famous for its beach, and you can kind of see in the background there is the peninsula, which is a really beautiful hiking trail as well. Going down to the bottom where you see 2010, that is from Tanto, which is more of like the agriculture and flowers. They do rice field art, so tambo art, where they like make the rice fields look like a bird just by when they plant the rice, which is really neat. And they do a tulip festival as well, which is what you see there. Yeah, so I love living in Toyoka. There's many things I've been able to experience. In Kinosaki, there is an artist whose family for generations has been making bamboo art. No, this isn't bamboo, sorry, this is rice. So like the rice stalks, they dye it, they flatten it out, and then they set it into geometrical patterns. And so that was really cool. Kinosaki, again, is very famous. The entire area has beautiful sakura. So sakura is cherry blossoms, and just had a good time with my friend there. And I got to do another cultural exchange where me and some of my friends practiced dancing in yukatas, which is like a more informal style of kimono. Toyoka is very famous for I believe it's called the Oriental stork in English. And it's a bird that used to live in this area, but unfortunately pesticides and farming ended up killing out the entire species here. So the city has put an initiative together where they actually brought the species back. They got one from, I think maybe it was Russia, don't quote me on that. And they started a breeding program, and now in this area we have 140 of the birds back to the wild. So there's a lot of things that I'm proud of here. That might have been my last photo. So Japan, the good and the bad. Here's some photos from exploring a rural Kyoto, where they had a little area where they just a bunch of different onis. So those are Japanese ogre monster statues. We enjoyed stopping by and taking photos with all of them. So starting off with the good things, my top 3. I love the beautiful nature in Japan, the mountains, the ocean. Japan is really big on the geoparks. So those are areas that are designated as parks under the idea of the rocks that are there and the formations. So you can go to many different like museums that will try and explain like how the rocks are formed and what happened many, many years ago. It's really cool. I like it. I enjoy the amazing culture, so being able to visit shrines, temples, the traditions, the arts, the crafts. Um, Even just from my apartment, I think if I walk 5 minutes that way or 7 minutes that way, I would find shrines just in the middle of the mountain. There's so many. And I love food in Japan. There's amazing sushi, beef. It's really cheap to eat out here in Japan because tipping is not normal. If you were to try and tip, that would be considered rude. So you can easily get a really good meal under $10. I'd like to share some pictures of some of my favorite foods. So Japan, most regions will have their local specialties, so things that they're kind of known for. In Toyooka, we're known for Tajima beef, so a very fancy type of beef. But these photos, going off of the one on the left, that is a beef bowl from a region in northern Kyushu, where they are also famous for beef, and it's very good. This ice cream is from the Kobe Botanical Gardens, where they have a lavender ice cream to go with the lavender flowers. Like every area kind of has its own food, and whenever you're traveling, I would recommend doing a quick Google search, see what that area claims to be their fame, what their fame to claim is, and I would recommend giving it a try. But even the non-regional foods are delicious. Like Mr. Donut does really cute things, making food at home. Here I shared a bit of odd photos. This one is my friend at one of the fishermen's bars, izakayas, that we go to near her place, where the owner thinks it's hilarious to just keep giving her a bigger and bigger rice bowl every time. And working at school, actually, this other photo, we get school lunches. So I don't pack lunch to go to work. Instead, I'm given food. I like pay. It's really cheap because I think it's subsidized for like teachers and students, but I pay about $2.70 per meal. And this is one of my most hated meals, but there is some really good kyushoku, so school lunches as well. But even the fish that I don't like is delicious. Next, move on to the bad things, because there are some bad things. But for me, these are my top three. Losing the ability to be an independent adult. So in Canada, obviously, I dealt with all of my own things, like going to the bank, being able to like go to the doctor. I could do all that because I'm a functioning adult. But then coming to Japan, I lost that ability. I didn't know how to sign up for a bank account in a foreign language. I didn't know what the rules were for going to the doctor. For example, here, you don't go to like a general doctor. Most people, if you have a problem, they recommend, oh, just go to the hospital. Even if you're like, but I just have a cough, I don't think, but no, here you'd go to the hospital. So number two, becoming illiterate. I can't read. So many signs I don't understand. I once went to go on this hiking trail that I read about online, but when I got to the place to start the trail, there was like a chain link fence, a door, and a sign on the door. And I didn't have internet on my phone to try and translate it. And I was like, oh, that sign probably says, do not enter. I don't want to break the rules. So I took a photo of the sign and then went back home. I showed a photo to my friend and I was like, what does this sign say? Like, I want to go hiking here, but I'm worried it might be against the rules. And my friend looked at it and said, that says close the gate behind you. I was like, oh. And number three, unable to fully communicate. So I'm sure you've noticed my top three bad things about Japan mostly rely on my own abilities. So they're things that I can improve on and things that I've been working on. If you come to Japan with like a really good grasp of English, your bad things about Japan would be completely different. So here are some of my recommendations for learning Japanese. There's some really good textbooks out there. Genki is great if you're doing independent study. The one below that, the Minna no Nihongo, is very good, but it's better in a class setting. So these books are good for like learning basic conversations to be able to communicate. And next, I'd recommend for being illiterate, Wanikani. It's this app that you can use to try and use mnemonic devices in order to recognize kanji and be able to use them effectively. But really, more important than a textbook, more important than Wanikani, is confidence when it comes to foreign languages. You just have to be able to say what you want to say and hope people understand, and just keep trying your best. I have two friends who have lived in Japan for 3 years now, and their Japanese combined is not very great, but they're always able to get their point across because they're just such energetic, happy, Genki people. So Genki means like really, really energetic, really happy. Yeah, and even like any language this works, you just need the confidence. People know that you're learning a language. People know that you're not going to be like amazing when you talk. They can kind of tell visually that you're not Japanese, at least here. But like even at school with my students, we just did an English test. And some of the boys who are just really energetic and who'll come up to me and say, "Hello, Michelle," and they'll like talk to me. I thought they were amazing at English because they try, they talk, they do what they can. But they barely pass the English tests compared to some of the other students who don't talk to me. And I don't think they're good at English, but they got 100%. So yeah, just with languages, be confident. You can do it. Just try your best. The worst you can do is fail, and then just try again. Learning experiences for everyone. Also, a notable mention for the worst things in Japan, or my bad things. Just heads up, this isn't a real picture, but bugs. Oh, whoops. Mukades specifically. So mukades, don't worry, this one's just a toy, but they are horrifyingly large like that. Are these big centipede bugs that you can step on and squish and try to like kill, but then they'll still run around. And apparently their bites are poisonous, which is horrifying. Yes, I miss Canada's lack of large bugs. That's definitely one of the bad things of living in Japan. All right, so next, some of my favorite trips that I've been on in Japan. Just give some context of this photo, what you're looking at here. In the fountain, this monster is called Amabie. And so Amabie is a Japanese monster from a story where apparently Japan was undergoing a large sickness and many people were dying. And one day this fisherman was near the water and this monster popped up. This monster was Amabie. And Amabie said, "If you draw me and show me to the people, everyone will be cured." And so then he quickly drew the picture, and that's what this picture is here in the top right corner. And then it went across the land and everyone was healthy again. So yeah, this story's kind of resurfaced in the last 2 years because of coronavirus. So Amabie has kind of become a bit of a symbol. You can see, as here it is in a water fountain. You can see it in gift shops. Japan's been using it in campaigns to just be like, "Stop Corona, gotta be like Amabie." And I just love this little monster dude. I think they're so neat. Japan, also their love of mascots, phenomenal. Can go somewhere and see like everything will be like this giant bear like logo everywhere, and it's just really cute. But yeah, going on to my favorite trips. This first one was actually a business trip for the jet program, going all the Hyogo jets, so all the ones in my prefecture, go to Awaji once a year. And after the conference, me and my friends, we went to check out Nijigen no Mori in Awaji. And Nijigen no Mori is kind of like a theme park with different areas. So if anyone's familiar with anime, they had like a big Naruto land where you had to do different puzzles and be like a ninja and get stamps. And then they also have a themed area that changes every few years, I think. So when I was there, they were doing a night walk light show in the forest where this guide was telling us the story of the phoenix bird and how it's going to save everyone. And then, like, as we kept walking, there was a disaster. And then we had to like help the bird to then save the forest. It was really beautiful. I believe right now their themed attraction is a giant Godzilla that you can zip line into its mouth. So always recommend checking that out if you're in the area. Another place that's obviously gorgeous, this is not the Inaka, so it's not rural Japan. This is more central, would be going to Kyoto. So Kyoto has Fushimi Inari Taisha. That's all of these gates are called torii gates. And so the place is just filled with hundreds, probably thousands of these gates. Near the bottom, you can see there's many famous pictures of people, just many gates. But you can climb all the way up to the top of the mountain and the gates go all the way up. And it is a nice view of Kyoto, the city. In Kyoto, I've gone and worn a kimono, which is quite a cool experience. People are very friendly about that. Something a bit more off the beaten path that I'd recommend in Kyoto is the Otagi Nenbutsuji temple. So it's a temple where they had some kind of disaster. I don't remember what exactly it was, but they had to rebuild their shrine, their temple. And when they rebuilt it, they were like, oh, we should just get people in the community to carve these little men or people. And so everyone just kind of came and they like took a stone slab and then they carved different people. So now there's like just hundreds of these little stone people all around the temple. Here's my friend drinking some sake with two of the little stone people who are drinking sake. And then the other photo, you can just see that there's so many of them. And they're all doing their own little thing. Like some of them are, there's one doing a handstand. They'll have different expressions. One was even listening to a Walkman, which kind of gives you an idea of when this all went down. Yeah, that was a cool trip. Next, Kagoshima. So this is a prefecture. Down at the bottom of Kyushu. And Kagoshima has Sakurajima volcano. And so this is a volcano is supposed to be active, having more than hundreds of eruptions a year. They're generally small eruptions, like the day that we went, you can see there's some smoke. But Sakurajima, we rented bikes and we drove around. And when you take a ferry to get to the volcano island. This photo here of my friend is in a Japanese gardens. This is more the viewpoint just of the mountain, but the Japanese gardens itself was also very beautiful. Another place in Kyushu, so southern Japan, that I'd recommend is Saga. And Saga is famous for a hot air balloon festival that happens once a year. And so, because of this festival and how they're known for hot air balloons, they have a hot air balloon museum. The museum had lots of informative guides and activities into like how hot air balloons work. They even had a simulation game where you could try and land a hot air balloon, which was pretty cool. So now going back to more of a northern Japan, I'd like to recommend Gifu. Gifu, we went skiing. The mountains were gorgeous. And there was also this village called Shirakawa, where it is a historical UNICEF site for the straw roofs. Apparently the roofs have to be changed every 50 years. and it takes the whole community to come together to build these elaborate roofs. And these houses were very tall. I think it'd be about 4 or 5 stories in Canada for this building. And they're all like traditionally historic. That's really cool. And finally, a notable mention of a place that I would recommend going, but I would not make it a sole purpose of coming to Japan. And Japan has a lot of little weird things. So really, you can just kind of look anywhere in Japan and they'll say that they're famous for some food, or they'll have some big reason why you should go there. And honestly, it's always worth it. So here in this is a giant umeboshi. So umeboshi is a pickled plum. It is a giant umeboshi in Yunogo, Okayama. So the giant umeboshi is actually just a rock that has been painted the color of a pickled plum. But it was pretty cool to just go and see this giant pink rock in Yunogo, which is a town that was another onsen, so public bath town, where we went and explored. And they also had a toy museum and a music box museum. It's another thing. Japan has many cool little museums that are really interesting to go walk through and always very cheap. I've never been to a museum that was more than like $8. Generally, they're around the $3 to $5 range, and always make for great day trips. All right, so yeah, that is my presentation. Thank you for listening. Do you have any questions? Anything I can help you with? I also included my email in case if you think of anything in the future. Yeah, hello.
That was fantastic. I loved the food photos, obviously, were probably my favorite part. But it's so cool to see all the different places that you visited while working over there. For our audience members, if you do have any questions, remember you can unmute yourselves, I think, and ask questions verbally, or you can type. From Bill from the library says hi. What time and day is it there?
So right now it is 7:45 in the morning. So I woke up at 6:30 to get ready for this talk to share my experience with Japan with you guys.
And we're very grateful. So grateful. Yeah, so for comparison, right now in Alberta, it is Friday, May 28th. It is 4:45 in the afternoon.
So oh yeah, sorry. Today is not the 28th anymore. Today is 29th you're for me. Future. Yes, I live in the future quite often.
Yeah, so is it 14 hours? No, 15?
I'm not too sure. I tried to figure it out at one point, but then daylight savings happened and I decided it wasn't worth it.
Very tricksy, very tricksy.
But it works out pretty nice to be able to still communicate with people back home, because my Saturday mornings and Sunday mornings are generally your Fridays and Saturday evenings.
Yeah, that works pretty well. Also from Bill, how much longer are you planning on being over there?
I'm not too sure. Oh, I forgot to mention this earlier. With the JET program, there is a time limit. The most you can do is 5 years. At the moment, I might do the whole 5 years. There's still so much more that I want to see. I want to get better at Japanese, to communicate, and I'm enjoying my experiences, so.
I'm so happy to hear that it's been good for you. Excellent. I'm trying to think if I had any questions of things. Oh, for their school days, what are their school days like in terms of hours? Like, do they start early in the morning, go in the afternoons?
So for students, they start at around 8, and it really depends on the day. Like elementary school kids, they generally finish around 3, except Wednesdays they finish at 2, because teachers have meetings in the afternoon on Wednesdays. But at junior high school, if kids go to club activities, which are kind of required, there's really no choice not to. Sometimes their school days start at 8 a.m. and they finish around 5:30.
Okay, so kind of similar to here.
Yeah, but being a real teacher, so like I'm a teacher assistant, But being like a real teacher in Japan, they will sometimes go to school at 7 a.m. and not go home until at least 9.
Oh,
I once had my
brutal.
teacher edit a document that we were working on together, and the last time it said it was saved was at 1 in the morning. And so for
Oh,
him to save it, he would have had to have been at school. And I was like, what? Go home. This wasn't that important. So
oh,
there's,
that's painful.
yes.
Oh dear. Bill and Shelley also say you should stay. That's awesome. I mean, not that they like never want to see you again. I think it's just they want you to have the best possible time over there.
Japan is very fun. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Mhm. When you're traveling, is it mostly trains that you would use to get around?
So it kind of depends on the area. When I went to travel Kyushu, which is southern Japan, I actually went by train because I got a rail pass that was discounted. If you come to Japan as a tourist, I recommend getting a rail pass. There is a heavy discount for foreign tourists who come. But you can't really get to a lot of things by train. You can get to the main things, but even when we traveled Kyushu, there was 2 different days where we also got a rental car. So that way we could go see the beautiful rice fields. That way, here, I'm gonna share a photo. So yeah, so we could go see these rice fields. We could go to like this rural onsen town. There's a lot of things that aren't very accessible. You can get to them by train, but the thing is that might take 5 hours compared to a 30-minute drive. Like,
Yeah.
so trains are very useful, but sometimes just having a car is better, unless if you're in the major city centers.
And do they drive on the, I guess, right hand or the left hand? Is it like North America or like Britain?
We travel, I gotta remember. On the left side, we drive.
Okay.
So it's
So
the opposite of Canada. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
When I
I'm
first
always
moved here,
curious as to where that, like where those divisions are, left side or right side with
yeah.
driving around the world.
Yeah, so when I first got here, I always had to wear my watch on the wrist that I drive on, so that way I could like remember, I'd get in my car and be like, "Where do I go again? Oh, okay," and then drive along the road.
When I was driving in Wales, I constantly had the song like to the left. I had that
Yeah.
just like constantly in my head. It kind of helped. I don't know. It was still a little scary. From Bill and Shelley, it sounds like you found it easy to make friends.
Yes, so I have in my area at least like 40-minute drive most directions. There are other people who work the same kind of jobs as me. So a lot of my friends have been like Canadians, Americans, Australians, a lot of global people. I'd say my first year I was a little too shy to go and try and like work on my Japanese. That's why I say like confidence is very important. I've made friends with some people who are very outgoing and they've like encouraged me to go outside of my bubble. So like most Friday nights I spend at like a small local bar in an even smaller town than the one that I live at, where I've now made friends like with the bar owner, with the bar baby, just a baby that's at the bar, and random fishermen, and we just have like a really good time. So yeah, I've been able to meet a lot of amazing people here.
It sounds so fantastic. Does anybody else have any questions? Anything else you're curious about? Thank you for sharing your email address there, Michelle. Well, people have questions, get in touch. And we will be posting this if people want another look at your photos and things like that. There were some really, you said there were some good links and things attached to some of the slides. So Michelle's going to send me the presentation and I will get it uploaded on the library's website, which is lethlib.ca, lethlib.ca. It'll be in the teen section of the website because this is part of the Teen Read the World program. And the presentation, I believe, will also be going up on our YouTube page, so you can, watch it again, share it with friends. From Shelley and Bill, this was so great, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you
And
for
yes,
coming.
thank you very much, Michelle, for sharing your experience and your photos and your time, your early Saturday morning. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No problem at all. I will be crawling back into bed.
Excellent plan. Actually, maybe I'll ask how, like you said, you arrived there in August of 2019, so you had about 4 or 5 months, maybe a little more, I guess, depending on when the pandemic kind of really hit in Japan. How different has that made your experience?
So I unfortunately have not been to a Japanese festival yet. Because like when I first moved here, my plan was to spend the first 4 or 5 months not leaving my area, so my small town. So I was like, I just want to get accustomed to life in Japan and then travel. And so my time frame of and then travel, Corona happened. It was like no travel. So definitely like the ability to go to different festivals, and because those have just been all canceled. There's none coming up this summer. So probably won't even be at least for another year because Japan's been much slower with the vaccines. Like I think we're now at 5% of the population who's been vaccinated. There was a time where we worked from home, kind of similar to like what happened in Canada. I think it's just more stress would be how it's changed my experience compared to no coronavirus. But
Oh, yeah.
I feel like that's very universally expressed.
That seems likely, yes. Oh dear. Well, we're glad that you're doing well. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but oh, is there anything else in the chat? Just make sure I caught everything. Yes, it looks like we've caught all the questions and comments.
Yeah, thanks again, everyone, for coming. I was really happy to share my experience with you. I hope this has kind of given you ideas of what to see in Japan or places that you'd want to go.
Mm-hmm. It was a lovely taste, especially like you said, visiting kind of the rural areas that's not always something I think that we see, in travel videos or things like that. So that was cool. And that beach looks amazing, the ones upward near where you live.
Well,
Awesome.
I look forward to you visiting someday, Paige.
And eating all the delicious food.
Of course.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you, Michelle, for sharing your time. Thank you to our audience for hanging out with us this afternoon for this Armchair Travel session. Our next one will be the last Friday afternoon in June, at which point we will be hearing about Transylvania and Romania, including Dracula's castle, where, if I remember correctly, right now they're using it as like a public vaccination site. So you can go to Dracula's castle and get your COVID shot, which is so great. Lovely little bit of cross promotion there. But yeah, so that'll be the last Friday in June. You can sign up right now through the library's website for your free ticket, and that will get you the link to next month's Zoom session, and you will get to see all sorts of cool castles and things like that. Very different, I would imagine, from Japan. Eastern Europe, Japan not being very close or similar. Awesome. So I will say goodbye to all of you at this point, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. For more information about the Read the World challenge that we are doing over the rest of 2021, check out letlib.ca/teen. You can download a reading passport, find some suggested reading links, and all sorts of information about traveling the world through books and virtual sessions, as opposed to actually, sadly, being able to travel this year. So thanks, Michelle, and I will see everybody next month for Transylvania.